Week 11 and 12 of RV life actually wasn't RV life. As we mentioned in our previous video, if you haven't seen it yet, we actually flew down to Dallas and Florida to visit some friends and family. So took a little break from RV life, but we're still going to go over what we went over just so you have a little more consistency.
Absolutely. So, like we mentioned last week, we were in Dallas before visiting some of my just amazing friends there. We got to celebrate my goddaughter's second birthday, which was super fun. So that's what we did on Saturday with all of her little friends. Had a great time doing that, which was awesome. And then flew out on Monday morning. So we were sad to go, but definitely glad we had gotten to stop by. And pretty much for the rest of the week, we were spending time with my grandparents. They live down in North Florida, and so we were in the small town that they've been spending years and years in, and I've gotten to go visit every year pretty much since. So that was awesome. There's actually kind of a funny story about that town in regards to Cooper and I.
So the story goes, we were talking at one of our first dates, not really dates, we weren't technically dating yet, but we started talking about, like our family and where they live, and I mentioned that I have grandparents in Florida, and Haley was like, no way, so do I, where do they live? And I said in the Panhandle area, and she was like, oh my gosh, so do my grandparents. And it turns out they live about 15 minutes away from each other, which is kind of crazy because, Haley and her family grew up in the South and moved around a little bit, and mine grew up in Milwaukee area most of the time.
And we met in Wisconsin, so it was sort of a what are the odds moment. We got to go visit them. His grandparents are only there in the winter months, so they weren't there at the time, but we spent a lot of time with my grandparents, which is really excellent. So had a great time eating way too much food because my grandmother is an excellent cook, getting very fat and happy off of her. Just amazing meals.
One story I have to tell is not this trip in Florida, but a couple times ago we were going and she got donuts from the store for breakfast, and I was very excited because we normally don't get donuts because Haley can't eat gluten. So I was all fired up and I was like, I want a donut. And her grandma said, you should put some butter on it. And I was like, okay, it's a donut. And so I put just a little bit on there just so she wouldn't, be like, put butter on it more and more. And then she used some butter for her cooking. And then she had some left over, and she's like, here, put this on there too. And she put a whole slab of butter on it and melted it in. Ended up being like a whole tablespoon of butter for one glazed donut.
And then she asked him isn't it good? And he's like, yeah, but it's literally like a tablespoon of butter.
It was a donut. It was going to be good anyways. So that just goes to show how much they feed us, and we love it. They're amazing, and they're great cooks. They usually do cook their own food. They don't just get us donuts.
We asked them, I think just after that moment, how many sticks of butter they go through in a week, and they said they go through 4 sticks of butter in a week for 2 people. But they're also 87 and 89, so I guess it's working for them.
I say we might need to start eating more butter because clearly it might be the secret to a long life. And then to counteract our high increase in calories and desserts and food, we just started to kind of pick up our running a little bit. So I am running a marathon in November. Very excited, pretty pumped about it. Also a little nervous about it because it's a little short time of preparation.
And only his second marathon.
So I decided I was going to start running 6 miles as my daily run, trying to do that 3, maybe 4 times a week if I'm feeling aggressive. So we started doing it in Florida. However, it was 90
very hot
and really humid every day. It was a humidity where you walk outside and you can it hits your face and you're like, wow, this is heavy.
So he's a runner and has been for a while, and I am just getting into it. So I'm training for a 5K, but I agree it was very hot. But it was good to get to counteract some of the massive butter usage. We had a great time with them. That was an awesome visit. And then that Friday, I actually turned 30, which was really exciting. Ooh. It feels very odd to be this age. My 20s are officially done. So I wasn't upset or anything. I was more just stunned that I am actually in my 30s now.
Doesn't she look great for 30?
So that was really nice. Had just a great day with family. And then on Saturday, we went to the Panama City area and spent some time with more of my family. And we got to go to this water park that I grew up going to basically every year since I was a little kid, but hadn't gotten to take Cooper to yet. So had a lot of fun getting to do that. It was the exact same. I probably hadn't been there for 5 or more years, but loved getting to do it all over again and getting to spend time with him with that. So that was great. And then we went to dinner at the Wicked Wheel. Which I have been to a long time ago, having to be gluten-free, so my options were a little more limited, but we had a really nice time there as well.
And slight chance you ever go to the Wicked Wheel, I got the spicy chicken tender dish or whatever it was with the chicken and waffles, and I don't have a huge spice tolerance, but I have higher spice tolerance than I would say the average person who can't handle spice, if that makes any sense. So I was like, I'll try it, and I had it, and it was hot. It was a little spicy.
You weren't like battling, but you were a little bit.
I was battling a little bit once I ran out of beer. I didn't really have anything to like cool down my mouth, so then it got spicy, and then I had to save some of it for later. But it was very good. We would definitely recommend it.
After that, we headed back to go see my grandparents for a couple more days. Just wanted to spend a little more time with them while we were in the area. And then we moved on to where my dad lives. So he's about 2 hours away. Got to spend time with him and my stepmom basically for the rest of the week. So again, a lot of eating, although less butter. And some hikes around the lake right next to their house. They have a really lovely property. So again, it was just another great week.
We also played some board games. I mean, just kind of hung out. I think we had some extended family come over for a little grill out. So we just hung out with a lot of family, a lot of good time.
Shout out to my dad for his attempts at bananagrams.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's not a game that he has learned to love.
But he played it 3 times and lost 3 times. Don't know if I'll say graciously, but he did lose 3 times.
After the second one, he's like, let's go again. And then after the third one, he's like, never again.
Yeah, he never played that game again.
So we had a great week there. We were there from like Monday until Friday morning. And then Friday we flew back out. So we had been from Billings to Dallas to the Florida area. And then from there we flew back up to Billings. And we were really excited because we'd been able to park our RV at the Billings airport, which apparently has free parking. I think we mentioned that last week. So that was awesome.
Which was huge because I was expecting to spend like at least $100 if it was going to be cheap.
Yeah.
I was going to call a Harvest Host and just see if we could park it in their yard basically for like $100 for 10 days and hope they would say yes. And then they had free parking. So that probably saved us hundreds of dollars having free parking there, which was pretty awesome.
But we're also like, I mean, I don't know about you, but I was also a little worried, like, what if it's like gone? or like what if we get there and there's like broken glass and someone's tried to break into it?
I mean, we do lock it. There's 2 locks on the door that we locked, and we closed all the curtains, so we made it try to look like not.
Plus, it's the oldest looking RV wherever it is, so we figured like maybe they would just go to a nicer one if they were gonna break into something. But anyway, so we're a little worried, and then we get back and everything was fine. For the most part, it was there. And there was no glass on the ground, and all that's great. And they walk up, and Cooper's like, something is different. And he realized that the propane was not running, which was important.
Yeah, well, the propane was on. I thought it was off. Checked the valve. It was on. And I noticed the lights on the fridge were blinking, which usually means that it like short-circuited or something, which doesn't really make any sense. Because at this point, we've been living in the RV for a full time, for 2.5 months straight. Using the propane for at least a week at a time, like constantly on the fridge. Haven't had any issues with it. Back.
Basically just filled it up.
Yeah, and we filled it up like the week before we left. We didn't really think about it, and then before you know it, we come back and the fridge shut off.
I guess at some point while we were gone. We're still not sure why.
But basically it like shut off and just never turned back on. But all the lights were still on, so like there wasn't a fuse blowing or anything. And we came in and I just held the button to turn it off, and then I turned it back on, and then it worked.
And it has ever since.
Which is really frustrating because then all the food inside went bad. I mean, we had like cheese and like lunch meat. We had some burgers and chicken that we just threw in the freezer, hoping that like most of it would stay good. And it was all bad. We had to throw it all out. It smelled really bad. We had to like wipe out the fridge, dry it out.
Cooper was not living his best life.
I was very upset. But
he was a little saucy about it.
We've just been traveling outside of the RV for 2 weeks. And come back, everything's good, except we get in, smells a little funky. Turns out the fridge went out for some reason, so we had to throw out all of the food in our fridge, all condiments and everything, and now clean our fridge. So that was a nice surprise to come home to. But it happens. I mean, it's part of the joys and part of the not joys of RV life. Yeah.
So again, still not sure where that happened, but the fridge has been working fine ever since, which is good, at least.
And honestly, having our fridge go out, I'd rather have that happen than like someone breaking in or having it be gone. And we're not really worried about like anyone taking anything. We don't have anything that valuable. We had our computers with us. I was more worried someone was going to like break in the window thinking there was something in here and then leave, and then we're going to have to fix the window. Because that would have just been really annoying to try and fix.
So anyway, none of that happened, which was good. So now we're in the Billings area for the next few days. And on Saturday, we were getting back to our RV explorations. We had an excellent, excellent time with family. But it was also exciting to like get back to doing big things every day and seeing the area. So we headed out to the north section of Bighorn Canyon Recreation Area. And if you've been following along with our vlogs, you've seen weeks and weeks ago, I think it was actually like end of June. We were at the south section of the Bighorn Canyon Recreation Area, which is in right around Lowville, Wyoming. But this was the north section instead.
So I went to go explore that area. I wouldn't say it's like less developed, but I kind of just forgot how little people live out in the middle of nowhere, Montana, Wyoming, because we were in Billings, whether it was like a big city.
It's the largest city in Montana, which is not saying much.
It's not very big, but it's a lot bigger than, like Lowville, Wyoming. And I just kind of forgot how like empty it is, how much space there is. So we kind of pull up and we're like driving for an hour or so at this point, not really seeing any houses, not seeing anyone. Kind of like, is this like even open? Does it still exist? And we go up this winding road, and turns out the dam is actually closed. You can't drive up to the dam anymore.
So this particular recreation area in general, like we've mentioned, it's split into 2 sections, and they're actually not connected via road. It's like a 2-hour drive to get from one to the other, which is why we've done them in different parts. But they are connected by the Bighorn River, which is what runs all the way through them. So I think you could go from the north to the south by taking the river, but we don't have a boat. So we were headed to the Yellowtail Dam and their visitor center because we were trying to just go visit it. It looks awesome online, but we get all the way up there and it turns out it's closed and you can't even get far enough down the road to see the dam. So we didn't get to go to that part. So we looped around and went to a marina that I'm probably going to mispronounce, but it's the Oka Bay Marina. Did my best there, and that was actually awesome.
Yeah, we actually were able to swim there. There's like a boat launch. Like I said, it was marina, so there was boats parked there.
A little swimming area that was like designated.
It was also like 100 degrees, so it's very hot. And there was tons of people coming in and like launching boats and going fishing and water skiing, it looked like, and tubing. So it looked like a really cool area. If you have a boat, you can go there. There's tons of parking. You might have to walk a little bit for some of it. There was a little swimming area. We jumped in. The water was cold, but felt really good.
And so blue. It was
you could
so
see,
blue.
We were standing, I mean, it like went up to our necks, like 6 feet plus, and you could see your feet, like there was no water there. It was amazing.
It was gorgeous. And you're like in the middle of this canyon. It wasn't as deep as the south section as far as the canyon walls go, but it was still really cool. So we had a great time there. From there, we headed back into this tiny little town whose name I don't even know, and that's just outside of Bighorn Canyon, and we went to go hike this 3-mile access hiking trail. So it again is by the Bighorn River. It's supposed to be this really excellent section for trout fishing, which neither of us are big fishers, but apparently that's a thing in this particular area. So we go to this hiking trail that had been recommended to us, and
it sounded really cool.
Yeah.
You were supposed to be hiking like under the trees, through the tall grass, right alongside the river. Right. And we get there, and you're just hiking through the really tall grass, set off about 200 feet from the river on the other side of the trees.
Yeah, it's like you're looking at the river, and then the other side of the river has all these really beautiful, luscious trees. And your side is like, wow, it's 93 degrees, and I'm just hot.
It was like the equivalent of walking through a cornfield.
Yeah.
It wasn't corn, it was just tall grass. But that's kind of what it felt like. It was flat. The path was really overgrown.
Like, the whole hike is supposed to be a mile, and I think we got 3/4 the way out, and I, like, looked at him, and I was like, so, how you feel about going back? And he's like, sounds good.
It's not that it was hard or anything. There was just
hot.
It was hot. There wasn't anything too exciting about it.
And there's a sign for rattlesnakes whenever you start, and you're, like, in this, like, tall grass that's really tight up against you, so that did not make me feel extraordinarily comfortable. Like, we learned a lot about rattlesnake avoidance over this past few months, so in general I wasn't concerned, except whenever you can't like see what's around you. That made me a little nervous.
So then we turned around, went back, everything was fine, drove I think an hour or two back to our campsite back in Billings.
First we tried to go to the Little Bighorn, Battle of Little Bighorn, and then it was like closed.
Oh, that's right,
because we like didn't know that it would have like gates and hours. I don't know. Maybe we're just oblivious, but I was just kind of expecting like a memorial and a big field, because I've been to battlefields before and I feel like that's what it was like. And then like normally there's maybe a cemetery attached, and so I just thought we'd be able to go, but apparently it has hours.
Something we
didn't know.
Something we didn't do a whole lot of research before.
What?
We figured we could just kind of pull up, read a couple signs for a half hour or so, get a little more information, and leave. And we pull up. I mean, there's like huge gates.
We like pulled up at
close.
like 5:02, I think, and it closed at 5. So
yeah, we
didn't make it to that. We'll have to do that at some other time, but that's okay. But it was a far jaunt out to get. It was kind of near the Bighorn Canyon recreation area, but both of which were kind of far from where we were staying, about an hour and a half from Billings. So we weren't able to do that this trip, but that's okay. So headed back to our Billings campsite, and we'll be there for the next couple of days.
And that's everything that we're going to be covering in today's video. So make sure you follow along for next week when we do a little more exciting things related to the Montana area and back to RV life. So,
yep.
Thanks for watching.